Hello, welcome to Pro Mixing and Mastering. Today I'm going to show you how to dirty mix for better vocals. These are engineer secrets. Now, today I am using this software right here that I've been using for so many years now, about 4 to 5 years. This software, recording software, is called Mixcraft 7. And I've got their main mix opened up. This mix has not been done by me. It was done by it's done by Mixcraft, by top producers, top engineers, and just top masters. Many of the times when I tell you guys that usually I do my mastering within Cubase together with the instruments, and that is simply because it really works. Now I'm gonna break down everything that they did. Remember, this was recorded by highly paid engineers and producers just to make these professional software, recording software. It's one of the professional softwares that you can get and use. They have very good instruments, effects, and one of the effects that I wish, some of the effects I just wish they were in Cubase, so they've got it. So they came up with this song, they recorded it and engineered it, mastered it within Mixcraft and put it there so that those who buy Mixcraft can be able to see how top engineers do their works. So here we go. The first thing that I realized is that top engineers, producers, mixers, masters, what they do is they record some of their instruments live, or they use live samples. So let me just solo this so you guys can take a listen. So this is a kick drum mixed a little bit with a snare, and right there when you go into their FX channel track, this is what they got on the kick and the lower snare. They usually add a compressor. Remember, a compressor, any type of compressor that you have can work. So they have a compressor right there on the kick drum, and the threshold is set to -16, somewhere there, 16, and the ratio is set to 2.1, and then the attack is set on just medium, not too fast, just a little bit, 0.5, but a little bit faster, and then the release is set on 0.01, very fast. If you want to know this, just watch the video on best compression. I did a video just a few days ago that is gonna help you. And then the next thing that they added was a classic EQ. So they tried to EQ the drum, kick drum a little bit. They tried to get to increase the lows a little bit so it can have that punch, and then the mids around 2K area. This is like 2K area. This is like the ordinary EQ that you guys are familiar with. You can also use this one. It's just a classic EQ, and basically EQs, it's the same with the EQ that you have. So with this one, for you to know this one, you just have to look at the numbers. The numbers like 20K is right here. There is 2K, there is 6.3. So it's just you know, those numbers that they just put here. But with this one, it's just a matter of like raising these knobs right here. So I see that they just increased to make your kick a little bit punchier. Make sure you raise it up in this area of, you just boost up the lows a little bit. And let me just pull up an EQ. So there is an empty track right here. They left it so you can add something. Let me just fab filter EQ so you guys can check out what I'm talking about. So here is fab filter, and then we have these numbers. This is their own EQ which they added. So it's like they have raised 63k. This is like 63 somewhere here. So they raised this area. This is the area. Let me go to 63. So see what the pros do. So they raised 63 K area, and then they also raised 6.3 about 6,000 somewhere there. So they raised this just to give it more presence. So I see that they raise up the 63K area, this area 63. This is the one right here. They raised it up to give it that punch, in order to give your kick that punch. And then apart from that, they also raise the 6.3K area somewhere here, just to give it more presence. And then they raised the 20K. Let's see, where is the 20K on this? I know you guys know how this works now. So the 20K area, this is 20K. So they also raised right there. They raised this. Why? They wanted to give it that that punch. So I see that this is what they did. Then the 2K area is and basically this is the same, right and left. So they are using a stereo EQ. It's not mono. So it's like their tracks are in, this is in mono, but they use the stereo EQ. This is what I was talking about last time. Sometimes it depends on what works for you. You can use a stereo EQ in a mono track and it still work for you. So like this one is a stereo EQ, because when I raise this one, the left and right are working together. So this basically, this is the same as this one. So don't get confused. This side is the same as this side. So when I boost this side, like now I'm using this as a stereo EQ, so it's working on both. So with this one, they raised this, and then they also raised 63K area, and then this is on 00. Then the 2K area, they dropped, this is where 00 is, they dropped it a little bit. So 2K area, where's 2K? 2K is right here. So they just did this just to remove, I'm sure they didn't want a certain frequency, so they removed this frequency. They reduced a little bit. This is why you see 2K area is reduced just a little bit. Then 200, and then there is also 200, and then from 200 they go to 6 somewhere there. So before 2K area, there is this, they reduced a little bit somewhere here. Let me just get the number. They reduced a little bit around 1K area somewhere there. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna turn off their main EQ, then I'm gonna turn on my own EQ. So here we go. Main EQ, their main EQ is this one. So I'm gonna just switch it off, and then let's listen to what I've done with my EQ. Just see what is happening right there. Let me turn off mine and then turn on theirs. Turn off. Basically it's the same. So if you want your kicks to sound punchier and also to have that bass low end, just add a compressor. I can basically replace the compressor with my compressor. The settings are the same. So having done that, I'm gonna take out my EQ. Then the second instrument that they basically the same. It's like they just duplicate. They play it a little bit higher, then they play a lower one, and then they play another lower one. It's like the same thing, but EQ'd differently. So with this one, they just they threw in a compressor to compress this snare drum a little bit. They didn't want to hit much, so they compressed it. The ratio is on 12. The threshold is on 12 ratio 1.1. Then attack 0. This one is set on medium, and then the release on really slow release. The snare is on slow release. So usually, if you want your snares like to have that, you can set it on a slower release. Slower release is when you set this release to your right instead of your left, right. So I see that some of these secret, the top engineer secrets, is that they set their snares on a slower release. Then I was expecting a reverb, but they didn't put a reverb on the snare, and then the next one is a harder one, just to make, whenever you want your instrumental to be heavy, try to duplicate the sounds like the way they've done it. I think it's one great secret. On this one, they just threw in a limiter. They put in a limiter. And basically what they did, they just threw it there without trying to increase the volume. They just wanted it on default. And sometimes you can throw in your plugins without touching them, and if the default one sounds good, then just let it be there. So this one is a limiter, master limiter. It's like compression as well. If they watch what is happening here, the lights are not even turning on. When I increase it like this, the lights are gonna turn on. See what is happening? So it's like they didn't want to, they just put it somewhere there just to limit those transients a little bit. Then this is the next one is drum room. Use samples, guys, whenever you want your sounds to be better. This is, they threw in a limiter as well, just to limit those transients. And watch their volumes. It's like many times we get concerned about whether we do gain staging or not, but look at their volumes. They are really like in the yellow and red. Look at this, somewhere there. And what they really want to get is that punchier sound. So sometimes you just have to go against the rules, and just, if the sound sounds good, then let it be so. And then let me look at this one. What is this? Oh, it's a tambourine. So what do they add in a tambourine? Nothing. All right. So many times when you try to add effects on every instrument, but like this one, they just let it be like that. And when you play them together, they sound like this. Wow. I'm learning a lot, and I believe you're learning a lot. And the tambourine is a little bit punch 36 right percent right. I know why they panned that one, because there is also another one. There is also another one that just comes in, so they panned this one so that it can give more space to, especially this, because there is another one inside. So whenever you feel like, I've played this in a certain instrument, so let me just try to pan this so I can create some space. And this one is hands, like, yeah, sounds like that. So look at this, look at this secret right here. These two, I'm gonna solo these two, this one and this one, tambourines and hands. The hands are panned to the left, 44% left, and then the tambourine panned 36 right, simply because of these two. So this is why they panned this. If they had put this on the middle like this, they are never going to sound the same. For example, let me do this. See, they are playing together. So what they did is they panned 1, 30 somewhere there, 30, and they panned 1 there, so they can sound like this. So they both have to like give space to each other. So these are one of the things that you have to do if you, especially when you're working with same type of instruments, and then there are certain instruments which like sound the same. You can like pan some to the left and right. Panning is very important. Then watch this. They did some automation on this one. I see there is automation, just a simple automation. You don't need to go complicated. There are just certain parts they wanted to raise here, like when it starts here. I know why they did that. It is because when it is starting, they wanted it to start a little bit slower like this, then increase as it goes on, and then reduce a little bit on the choruses. And then here it like increases, and then like on the verses it reduces. Everything seems different. So this is one of the things that you can do. Your instruments are not supposed to sound like the same from beginning to the end. You can try to reduce them a little bit using automation, especially on the verses, so that when whenever you are singing those verses, the what you are talking about can be heard, and that people can be able to like narrate the story behind what you are talking about in your music. So it's a great idea, and it's a great tip, especially to those who are doing music on a commercial level. Like you try to reduce those parts on the verses, and then the chorus, I see that on the chorus they bring in everything, they increase them just a little bit. The automation is very simple. Just check out the video I did in Cubase. And then this is the next instrument. Let me see what they added on the hands. This one right here. So they just put an EQ. They like cut down 20K area. They didn't want the bass, I see. Because with this one, you don't need much bass. It may start, it's like this is like a hat. So you don't need bass when it comes to a hat. So this is why they cut down. They did an EQ around 20K area. And this is basically just an Evo bass. Plotted bass, of course, just a simple one. And then on the bass, what do they add on a bass? I want to see what they added on this bass. Nothing. They just wanted to be like that. Then next, this is bad bass. They just like played it. Too dirty. I knew that they would throw in a compressor. Why? Because it's just too heavy. It needed to be compressed. Without compression, it sounds like this. It sounds like this. With compression? Without compression? With compression? It's just too heavy. So whenever you have heavy vocals or heavy instruments, add in a compressor, and let your compressor also be accompanied by an EQ. And let me see what they did. They raised up the 200K area. They wanted it to be more heavier, so it's like they wanted a heavy effect like on this bass. All right, and then what is this? This right here is a flamenco guitar. So they just played in this one. It's like it's not there, so they just played it, and they added a classic EQ. How do they do it with a guitar? They like wrote off the lows 220, 63, 200k area, just like what I tell you guys. They roll off and then they increase 2k area. They increase the highs, especially on the guitars, like they wanted it to sound sharper. And then they did an EQ, automation. I mean, they did automate it. They raised up this area. Automation is key, especially when you want to get that good sound. Before you record your instruments, make sure you EQ them and balance them the way they are supposed to be, and also throw in some compressors just to compress those harsh sounding instruments. And then the next one is a wine glass. Sounds like that. Beautiful. It has a little bit of some lows and some high frequencies, so I'm sure they cut something from there. They used a chorus. Chorus always sounds like a delay. Let me turn it off and then try to solo it on. Alright, so they only wanted a chorus on this one, and also modulation, just to modulate. Spreading, modulation always works with spreading. So whenever you want to spread your instruments, you can do modulation. Modulation is right there in Cubase. I'm a Cubase user, so I'm gonna be doing videos to explain modulation, explaining modulation and spreading and all those things. So they just added, to make it simple, a delay or a chorus. You can add the chorus on a guitar also. And then this, they panned it to 26 left. I don't know why they panned this one, but I'm sure there is another instrument which sounds like this one, and this is why they had to take this one to the left. So next there is this instrument right here, this one right here. Let me just take a listen. It's also a wine glass. They like repeat it, so you can repeat the same sounds as long as they sound good. Then they just throw in same settings. They put in classic chorus, a delay. Okay, then there is this one. So now I know that the reason why they panned this one to the left, it is because of this. So we're going to wrestle concerning space. So they wanted space, and this is what they used on this one. Well, it's a nice electric piano, and it's found in their instrument section. It's beautiful. It's called Warley electric piano. Beautiful. They used compression. They compressed it. Then they used they had to cut down 2K, 6.3K area. They cut somewhere there, and then reverb. They had to put reverb. This is their reverb. Let me see if they. This is their reverb. It's called reverberation. Reverberation. Beautiful. All right. So this is what they did, and basically the same thing, size and all that. So without these effects, sounds like this. With there is that good sound. I like what they did to this one. It's beautiful, and the way they played it is like this is just the way they played it. Very nice. They used a MIDI keyboard due to the way I can see the way these notes are played. It's like they used a MIDI keyboard. And one thing about dirty mixing is that you don't mind what you play. No need to do perfection. This is why most songs produced by these guys are top high-end songs. The voices just sound good. And most of us just try to work on perfection, but sometimes you just have to go with dirty mixing. Why? Because vocals become clear. You don't like try to control something that is already perfect, and then when you try to do that, and finally what was perfect becomes bad. So this is why dirty mixing is very important. and then pretty all the same. They played this, but I want to go to vocals right now because it's like the effects are the same. I want to go to vocals and see how they did play that along with their vocals. So let me just magnify this. So this is their vocal. Listen to the way it sounds like.
Water's getting deeper and I can feel my feet.
This is dirty mixing, guys. The reason why I'm saying dirty mixing, what I mean is this vocal was recorded and mixed without noise gate, without X noiser, without denoiser. They wanted like to preserve that quality. So whenever you want good top quality vocals like the pros, this is why when you listen to most of these international songs, some of them you're like, hey, there is noise there. Why did they get it out? Noise, as long as it's not that bad, you can still keep it there just to preserve your vocal. If you want to preserve your vocal, then keep that noise. Every top artist, American artist, has noise on their vocals. Why? Because that's the reason why their records stand out. That is the reason why their songs are really, the vocals are punchier. Why? Because they didn't add too much denoiser, gates and crackles, and when you add all these, I come to realize that when you add it too much, if you add, then just do a little bit. When you add too much, the quality of the vocal just fades away. Everything just like disappears, and that quality record that you wanted to record just becomes a bad quality record. So I want you guys to listen to this.
I keep on bailing buckets, but it flows right back to me. And everything,
I can hear fans in the background, and yet these guys are pros. I mean, what were they thinking? Didn't they hear the fans in the background or the floor noise? I wonder why. Till I came to realize this is what is needed. When you play it with in the mix, you won't even get it like this.
Children are asleep, but
so what they do is they try to manipulate the sound. What do I mean? They try to play in certain instruments that cover up the noise. Like, see, on this area, there is noise, but there is so you won't get it. So it's like psychologically they play around with your mind so you don't get it, and yet the noise is there. What they want is to preserve the vocal quality. So I'm gonna just try to solo it up and just try to get some noise from these top producers, and
flows right back to me, and everything is in its place. The children are asleep, but the water's getting deep.
The breaths are left out, and many are times when you just like try to cut, you just don't wanna listen to those breaths, but just to maintain that natural sound, you can leave them out. So there is no problem with leaving out the breaths.
Deeper, and I can feel my feet.
Listen to this area, guys, right here where the singer is not singing. Right here, man, there is a lot of noise right here. Let me just increase this so you guys can take a listen. This. Wow, this is serious. But what I like is dirty mixing helps your vocal to stand out like this.
How am I gonna make time? Well, this is gonna take time. Keep on bailing buckets.
And the vocal as well is around yellow, red. As long as your vocal is doing well, there is no problem. So go ahead and do your mixes. Don't mind the clipping and all that. If sometimes your vocals can clip, but will not distort. So if it is good, go ahead and just record it. I love what these guys did. Remember, this was done by top producers, top engineers. This is a professional recording software, so they knew exactly what they were doing. Then I realized that they did some automation. Let us get into the vocal and see the effects that they used on the vocal. So on the vocal they used a classic compressor, and of course a compressor is almost on every vocal. A compressor, then their ratio is on 1:1 ratio. Let's see. No, their ratio is on 2 to 1 ratio, and then their threshold is on 12 dB, negative 12 dB, and then their attack is on really fast attack. Now here is the thing, guys. Check out that video and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. On whenever you want your vocal like to cut through, use a faster attack. This helps your vocals to like cut through the mix. And then the release 2 is on 0.1 somewhere there. It's really a fast release. Why? They wanted their vocal to like become very, very like cut through. See what happens when I take the attack on a slower release than this release. I'm gonna leave it on the middle and see what is gonna happen now.
But it flows right back to me, and everything.
Suddenly the vocal is not cutting through. So the faster attack, the faster your attack, the more your vocal like cuts through like this.
Is in its place. The children are asleep.
And then they used a soft knee just to soften the vocal a little bit. It's good. You find this in some of the compressors. A soft knee just softens the vocal a little bit. And then they increase the gain just a little bit. Okay. And then the next thing that they did was an EQ. So I know why they had to put a compressor first, then an EQ. They wanted first to compress those, and then after that EQ. Well, it works. Then what they did to the vocal is all these 20K area, 63, 200 was just left on 000. I know why. Whenever you want to maintain just a natural sound, you don't want to do much. You just want that the bass to be there, the body to be there. You can leave out all these 20, 63, 200, and also depends on the type of music that you are making. And then the 2K area was lifted up a little bit, and then the highs were just a little bit lifted, just a little bit from 0. Okay, just a little bit. They didn't want too much of the highs. And basically on the vocal they just threw in 1 and 2, a compressor and an EQ. So you see, you don't need much. An EQ, as long as your artist is doing a great job when it comes to singing, you can just put a compressor and an EQ. Basically this is what they did. And then to help the compression, they didn't do much of the compression, so they did a little bit of automation this just to bring down this area a little bit, and the rest is just like that. And then next there are these vocals right here. These are backings, these ones.
Take time.
No reverb right there.
Take time.
This one is like nothing was added, like 0. This is the background vocal. Like I came to realize that in background vocals you don't have to add too much reverb or delay, just a little bit if you're adding, so it can like bring out the punch. And then there is also these did they pan them? Yeah, they did some panning back, vocal double. This is like, let's see, which one is this one? Solo, this one.
Take time. How am I gonna make time?
It's the same vocal, they just added a double, vocal double, so effects, so it's the same. And then this one, a little bit of a high, so they panned this one to the left, on what, on 65, and this one on 81. So you can pan it 65, 81, 45, 50, it all depends. And then they did also automation to raise them up a little bit. And they have their sends. This is what I was looking for, send 1. So let's see what is in their sends. All right, so they have a reverb. They threw in a reverb on their sends for vocals, and then they also lead vocal, they threw in a classic delay. What they wanted was like a classic delay on the vocals. So they put in send 1 has a reverb, just like the way we do it, and send number 2 has a delay, just the way we do it. So these are sends to the vocals. Yeah, and basically this is what they did, and these are the little things that they had to add in. And then finally what they did is they did not master it separately. Immediately they finished mixing in here, they did the mastering right in here. So let me come to FX. This is the master bus, master effects, and see what they used for mastering. This is how you master, guys. Very simple, it's not that complicated. So the first thing that they had to put was broadcast multiband compressor. Multiband compressor helps you to like compress each band separately, and I see that this multiband has also a limiter and imager processor, like when widening of the sound. So this is what they did, the ratio, they reduced the ratio, they did a little bit of side, and so basically this is multiband, and this is how it sounds like without multiband compression. So I'm gonna turn it off.
Oh, this is gonna take time.
With it, just a little, they just did a subtle changes, and then an EQ. Remember, this is mastering. This is how they mastered an EQ. An EQ, they wrote off 20K area somewhere there. They reduced it, they cut just a little bit, just like the way I explained to you guys that you can do this. Let me get FabFilter so I show you. So during mastering, what they did was they just did this, just to remove a little bit of that low rumble, that background noise which you cannot get with your ears. So they just cut just a little bit like that, just to remove that noise, and that is the 20K area. This is the 20K area, so they did this. That's exactly what they did. And then they also cut a little bit on 63 somewhere there. So what they did was just to do this, I mean, and then around 200K area, they just left it where it is. Then 2K area, and there's also 200, and then the 630 they like reduced a little bit, and then the rest they left them the way they are. So just a medium EQ, yeah. And then they put in a limiter. Remember, I always tell you, throw in a limiter so that it helps you not to clip. So this one is a classic master limiter. Always, whenever you are doing mastering, throw in a limiter just to set in and put in a little bit of some volume. And basically that's what they did. Let me turn all this off and take a listen to how it sounds like without without mastering.
Oh, this is gonna take time.
All right, so with the effects,
oh, this is gonna take time.
all right, so it was cleaned a little bit during mastering. Like before mastering, it's a little bit heavy, it's too heavy, but after mastering, it's like the low has been reduced a little bit before.
Oh, Oh, this is gonna take time.
After,
Oh, this is gonna take time.
so this is because of multi-band compression.
Oh, this is gonna
And EQ.
Oh, this is gonna take time. Take time.
Classic limiter is really like chopping those transients and just reducing them a little bit. So basically, this is how your dirty mix. Don't mind denoiser if your like voice is okay. Don't mind, like, look at how the pros do it. So basically, this is how you do it. Go ahead and do your mixes. I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to like the video.